All right. Hi, everyone. So thank you all for joining us for an intimate look at awareness. My name is Brendan, and I will be your host for today. Now, before we begin, you may be wondering what's the WFYT, and what's the Theosophical Society. So to provide you with a quick outline, the Theosophical Society has a vision of wholeness that inspires a fellowship united in study, meditation, and service. It has a mission of encouraging open-minded inquiry into world religions, philosophy, science, and the arts in order to understand the wisdom of the ages, respect the unity of all life, and help people explore spiritual self-transformation. It has an ethic holding that our every action, feeling, and thought affect all other beings, and that each of us is capable of and responsible for contributing to the benefit of the whole. So within this organization, the WFYT is a space for young seekers of truth to share ideas, learn together, inspire one another, as well as engage in various projects. But of course, this particular outreach program is open to people of all ages. So thank you all for joining us tonight. And tonight's session is the first of 4 sessions in which we explore awareness together and learn about its application in daily life. Each session will involve a presentation, guided meditation, followed by a discussion led by different people. To start our program proper, our speaker and facilitator for tonight is Kristin Lim. Kristin Lim has been a member of the Singapore Lodge Theosophical Society since 2019. She's a student of meditation, Qigong, and sound, and believes in bringing the spirit of self-inquiry and open-minded exploration to one's spiritual practice. Apart from that, Kristin currently works in tech and strategy. So take it away, Kristin.
Thank you, Brendan, and thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome wherever you might be in the world. So good evening if you're in Asia, good day, good morning. Thank you all for making time to join us today. So as Brandon mentioned, this is the first in the series of 4 sessions that we have. And this series we have titled An Intimate Look at Awareness. So we're kicking things off tonight, and we're glad to have you on board for the journey. So perhaps to maybe before we begin, we'll also talk a little bit about the format. So Brendan alluded to this just now. So I'll be doing a sharing for maybe 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will have a guided meditation for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we have half an hour, maybe slightly more, for a Q&A discussion for all of us here to share our thoughts and opinions and ask any questions as well. Okay, so as we kick things off, maybe a good place to start is by looking at what is awareness in the first place. So let's take a look at some of the definitions of awareness. So the Oxford Languages Dictionary defines it as knowledge or perception of a situation or fact. And another dictionary, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, defines awareness as the quality or state of being aware, or the knowledge and understanding that something is happening or exists. So these definitions seem pretty reasonable. We're probably all aware of our physical surroundings. I'm aware that I'm here in my home in Singapore. I'm also aware that, we're probably all aware what time it is right now. I'm aware that, we're all here together in the Zoom meeting. We have to know, where we are, what time it is, what time this program was to be able to come into this meeting. So we're all aware of these things around us, right? We're probably also aware of some key facts about ourselves. We know that we're of a certain age, we're of a certain race, gender, we have our own personal histories and family backgrounds, etc. So those are some ways in which we are aware. We all have a general knowledge of what's going on around us, and we have, some sense of who we are, what we can, what we cannot do. And that's how we interact with our environment, right? So just looking at these definitions, just thinking, yeah, are we aware of certain things? Yeah, probably, right? But what are some ways in which we might not be so aware? So have you ever had someone ask you, hey, are you paying attention? Maybe you're talking to a friend in a cafe or a restaurant or at work or at school. Maybe something caught your eye while you were talking to this friend that just made you, miss what he or she said for the last couple of sentences. Or if you think back to your student days, this is probably something that teachers may have said to your class every now and then, or there are a few teachers in the room here. Maybe it's something you say to your class every now and then, right? When you have a few students who are maybe daydreaming or falling asleep or doing something else in class. Or when someone yells at you, hey, watch where you're going. Maybe this happened while you're crossing the street and you're not really looking. Maybe you got lost in train of thought. You didn't notice a cyclist speeding by, or worse, a vehicle. And that's why we teach young children to cross the road. You have to look right, look left, look right again, pay extra attention when crossing the road, because in this instance, in these circumstances, the consequences of not being aware are very severe. You could get into an accident, you could seriously injure yourself. Or maybe you're at work, you've been in meetings all day, you're quite tired, or maybe you were doing something else on a Zoom call with your colleagues, and someone turns to you and goes, so what do you think? And sometimes I find myself saying, sorry, could you repeat your question again? Because I just wasn't listening and I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't know what the question that was directed to me was. And so this list goes on, right? So clearly there are some moments when there are lapses in our awareness from moment to moment, when we're not fully aware of what's happening around us. So during these lapses in awareness, what is happening within ourselves, right? So if we go a layer deeper and we turn our attention inwards, what is actually happening when we have these lapses in awareness? What are we thinking? What's going through our minds? Are we maybe worrying about the future? Maybe we're planning, we're anticipating. And it can be a very small thing. Like I could be thinking about what I'm going to be saying next to this person, or I could be thinking about what's for lunch. Maybe I'm really hungry, or I'm thinking about maybe the list of chores that I have to do when I get home later today, etc. Or it could be big things as well. We could be thinking, how do I reach this goal or fulfill this dream that I have? How do I, reach my next milestone in life? How do I buy a new house, or how do I get a new job, etc.? Or maybe we're thinking about the past. Perhaps we're reliving past events, past memories, and it can be in joy. If there is a happy memory or a happy event that we are thinking about, maybe we're reliving that in our mind, imagining what it's like to go through that day or go through that happy moment of joy or triumph. Or it could be in regret as well. So with 2020 hindsight, it's always easy for us to say, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. Or if only I had chosen X instead of Y, then things would be so much better. So we often go over these things in our minds. And before we know it, some associated emotions start to flood us. These could be negative emotions, like fear, anxiousness, anger, sadness, joy, satisfaction, etc. Or it could be, it could be more positive emotions as well. It could be feelings of joy, it could be feelings of satisfaction, happiness, etc. And as we think about these memories, we think about the future, we think about the past, our body starts to feel a certain way. Maybe our heartbeat is accelerating. Maybe there's some tightness or tension in our muscles, especially if it's a bad memory that we're thinking about or if we're worried about something. Or we could feel, really happy and just very light, very relaxed at the thought of a positive memory. So at the end of the day, whether we're thinking about good things or bad things, we're trapped in our own thinking, stories we tell ourselves in our heads. And in these lapses in awareness, we often find ourselves getting caught by what is going on in our minds. And then this becomes the reality that we live in. We're actually living in this reality, operating in this reality that is happening in our minds, rather than the reality that is actually out there and around us right now. So coming back to some of these definitions of awareness. So I've highlighted here key kind of dictionary definitions of awareness, right? Knowledge or perception of a situation or fact, knowledge and understanding that something is happening or exists. So what do these lapses mean in terms of our ability to know the actual reality? When we're daydreaming while we're crossing the street, we're not really awake to the situation that is actually happening around us. That, we're at a busy cross junction with approaching vehicles, there are other people around us, etc. So clearly there is this disconnect between the reality in our minds and that is different from the reality that is happening around us. So how do we perceive what is actually happening around us? How do we actually perceive what life is in this moment? And the truth is that we see the objective reality, we see life through a veil of our minds and our emotions. And this veil is like a window that's tinted or covered in raindrops. It colors our perceptions and affects our ability or influences our ability to perceive things with clarity. And many times we see things not as they are, but based on our judgments about them. We react to our circumstances based on our upbringing, experiences, beliefs, and all in all, this makes up our conditioning because it programs the way that we react to people and circumstances very subconsciously. And our instinctive responses are often based on this conditioning or programming that we have. And of course, how we react also depends on our mood of the day. If someone made, say, a mistake in your food order when you're at a restaurant, it could be that how you react is very different depending on whether you had a good day or if you had a bad day. And so to be able to awaken to life, to be able to awaken to living, we must first awaken to ourselves and understand what this veil is. And all of our veils are going to be slightly different. So how do we lift this veil or clean the window pane so that it becomes clear and we're able to see reality clearly and we're able to see what's happening around us with clarity? Before we even start talking about that, maybe it's important for us to also consider, why is seeing reality as it is important? Right? Maybe you might be thinking, my dirty window pane is fine, it's not perfect, but it served me well over the past few decades. But I believe we're all here because we are all seekers in our own ways. And we're looking for more from life. We're looking for more meaning, and we're looking to understand what life is really about. And perhaps there are moments in the past when we have felt awake, alive, typically when we are happy. Maybe you've felt the sense of aliveness when you've achieved something that you have yearned for a long time. It could be professional success, like a promotion or a new job. It could be recognition at school or at work. Maybe it's also in what we call the happy moments of our lives. When we get to go on holiday, when we get to go on a trip out. Or maybe it's, when we're with friends, when we're partying, when we're celebrating, when we're enjoying when our sports team that we support wins. So there are all these happy moments that, we've all experienced at some point, when we feel like, wow, it's really a high point in my life, and it's a part of my life, a point of my life when I'm thinking, wow, this is great, right? But maybe sometimes we realize that this happiness that we feel is fleeting, right? Why is that? Maybe if you're thinking about the professional success that you've achieved, the promotion that you've gotten, a new job that you've gotten, very quickly that you find that happiness, that sense of euphoria starts to fade, and we start to worry. We start to maybe crave for or want something better. We start to compare ourselves to other people. The list goes on, right? Maybe when we're thinking about this holiday, it's not happiness from start to finish. Maybe it's happiness at the thought of going on holiday, but when you actually go on holiday, you're really stressed out by the line getting, through security at the airport. You're stressed out about people around you who are seated around you who are maybe making too much noise. You worry about whether you've gotten all your things like your visa, your accommodation, your logistics in order. Maybe you missed your flight, you're really stressed out. So it's not all a bed of roses, right? That worry and anxiety also starts to set in. And even with friends, if you're at a party or you're celebrating something, you're in a big group of people, maybe once you get home, the loneliness starts to set in. You start to feel the sense of emptiness, and you start to feel, like you're alone. So in all of these cases, regardless of the happiness, the high points that we may have experienced in our lives, we see that very quickly, this mental control tower that we live in starts to take over. And maybe you've noticed that life is that much better when we align ourselves with the present moment, right? Because that's really where life happens. And if you think back to all of these examples and you think back to your own life, when we were happy in one instance, and in the next instance, suddenly we were not. Maybe it's because we were living in the past or living in the future and not necessarily living in the present. And oftentimes it is this human instinct to resist the present moment, or even see it as an obstacle or an enemy, something that, takes you away from happier times in past or in future. But if we think like that, then we're never really fully alive. We're always trapped in thoughts of what has happened or what will happen in the future. We're either reminiscing or anticipating. And this living in past or future often only keeps us trapped in the sense of unease, unhappiness, stress, anxiety, frustration, etc. So ultimately, there is no escaping reality. The present is something that we always have to come back to, no matter how happy or how sad we might have been. So how do we open to this present? How do we live with it? So hold that thought for a moment, right? And here you might have been thinking about your own moments of happiness, these high points in your life, these moments when you feel, yep, that was great. I was really happy at that point. So I invite you to contrast that with moments of clarity, moments of peace. Contrasting that fleeting happiness with moments of clarity. And perhaps you might have experienced something like this when you're out in nature. So it could be in a forest or in a mountain or by the ocean or sea, whatever your preference or favorite place in nature might be. And since we have some time, I invite you to close your eyes and just take a moment to call to mind your favorite place in nature. Imagine yourself standing, sitting there right now in this instance. And just imagining the temperature in the air, what this place in nature feels like, smells like, what it looks like, what it sounds like as well. And just taking a few deep breaths to really breathe in the sense of being in this place in nature. Feeling this sense of calm or peace. With nothing to distract you, nothing to do, just you and this place in nature. Perhaps you might notice that for a brief moment, just a brief moment, the mind is stopping its chatter and you feel like you're fully attentive, fully open to your surroundings, hearing every sound near and far, seeing details that you may not have noticed before. And in that moment, the mind is clear and silent. And we are just there. Maybe just for a moment. There is nothing more that we want. You might feel a sense of spaciousness, of expansiveness. And perhaps in this sense of spaciousness, the thoughts and problems and preoccupations that bother us on a daily basis become very small. Maybe they even disappear for a while. And a sense of spaciousness, this sense of just oneness, is awareness. And you can slowly bring yourself back to the present, becoming aware of sounds and sensations in your hands and feet. And you can slowly open your eyes. So, this sense of spaciousness, this awareness, it actually exists in every moment. And this is the true nature of our consciousness that often becomes clouded by all kinds of thoughts, all kinds of emotions and distractions. So, how do we bring this awareness to each and every moment? That is the task we have at hand, the lifelong task we have at hand. So, how do we bring an awareness to all of life, not just when we are walking along the beach or in a park or on a mountain, but in all of the daily routine, all of the mundane things in our lives? How do we bring an awareness when we are cleaning the floor at home or on our way to work, in the rush of traffic, for instance? How do we celebrate the good without wishing for it to go on forever? Without trying to cling on to and hold on to these instances of happiness? And how do we experience the most challenging, the most difficult moments of life, the most anxiety-inducing, the most sad moments of life, without feelings of wanting to avoid them, wanting to be somewhere else, wanting to do something else, not wanting to face it? So this is really the task that we have at hand. And here I suggest that one starting point could be coming back into the body. And I'll share with you a quote that really struck me when I heard about this. And the quote is this: Mr. Duffy lived at a little distance from his body. And this is from a book, or actually a compilation of short stories by James Joyce called Dubliners. And when I first heard about this quote, I thought, wow, that's a really interesting way of putting it. You can almost see this person and his body on the one side, and then maybe a couple meters or feet away, you have his mind just kind of floating, and they're sort of, disconnected, right? Almost like a little ghost. And I think that describes our experience, or at least my experience, for a lot of moments in life. And it could be small things like when we're washing our hands. It's such a routine motion or action that, yes, we know we're washing our hands. We turn on the tap, maybe put a bit of soap, we rub our hands for a certain amount of time. We're not really feeling the water on our hands. We're not feeling the temperature of the water. We're not feeling the sensation of, the soap on our hands. So that there is a disconnect between what we think we're doing and the actual experience, the felt experience of what we are doing. And that's just a simple example. I'm sure that we can all think of many more. So the body is really this means of us relating to the environment around us. It's a means of relating to the present. When we feel the sensation of water on our hands, we know that, and we perceive that, yes, I am actually washing my hand. And that's different from just this thought and this knowledge that, oh yeah, I'm washing my hands, right? So the body is this link between us, the mind, and present moment. And by noticing what is happening in the body in that moment, we can come back to the present. Even just noticing right now, is the brow furrowed? Are we clenching our fingers and toes? How's the breath doing? How is the heartbeat going at the moment? Is the body feeling tired, or is it easeful? And these are often subconscious. So the body will always tell us how we are really doing, not how we think we are doing, or what we want to tell ourselves about how we are doing. We only have to be willing to listen. And the good news is that the moment you realize that you are not present, you are present. And for those of you who meditate, perhaps you might have noticed that whenever we can observe our mind, we are no longer so caught, trapped by it. It's almost as if we can take a step back and look from the outside in. And that's when another factor has come in, something that is not of the mind, not of this mental control tower that we built for ourselves. And that is this witnessing presence. And once we start to approach the present with a sense of honesty and courage, we might just find that we can start to open up to all of the myriad of possibilities that life has to offer us. as we start to see things as they are, rather than through the lens of our thoughts, feelings, and experiences from the past, we start to strengthen the sense of being alive and ultimately feel a greater sense of peace, both with ourselves and with the world around us. So with that, I'd like to invite everyone for a short 15-20 minute guided meditation. And wherever you are, you can find a comfortable seat. And gently close your eyes. And perhaps start with making sure that the body is aligned. If you're seated on a chair, your heels under your knees. If you're seated on the floor or a surface beneath you, ensuring that the weight of your body is equally distributed across the calves and the sit bones. Maybe bringing the shoulders right above the hips. And you may want to tuck the chin back slightly so that the back of the neck is lengthened. Hands lightly resting on your thighs, palms facing up or facing down. And we start by gently taking some long, deep breaths in through the nose and maybe out through the mouth. Perhaps even sighing the breath out. With every exhale, releasing any tension we might be holding in the body from the day, from the week. Feeling the chest and the belly expanding with nice, full breaths. And allowing the chest and the belly to relax with every exhale. And we can start to draw our awareness inwards into the body. Just noticing right now what the body feels like in this moment. And asking ourselves this question with a sense of openness, honesty, courage. being open to however the body feels like right now. Perhaps there is some tiredness in the body, perhaps there is tension or even pain. Or maybe the body feels relaxed, alert, energized. Whatever is predominant in the body right now, whatever the sense of the body is, simply being with it. Being with the body as you might be with a dear friend, a loved one. There is nothing to do, nothing to change. However the body feels right now is okay. Now we scan the body from head to toe, starting with the crown of the head, the top of the head. And with each body part that we draw our attention to, take the in-breath to draw your awareness, your focus and attention to that part of the body. And with each out-breath, inviting any tension that you might be holding in that part of the body to flow down and away from you. You may want to visualize any tension flowing down through your feet into the ground and away from you. Drawing our attention to the forehead, noticing if there is any tension between the brows. Allowing that tension to release and loosen. The temples or the sides of the head. Down to the eyes. Allowing the eyes to relax from the world of seeing to rest. Down to the cheekbones, the nose, the jaw, the tongue and the lips. allowing the root of the tongue to relax and soften. Drawing our awareness to the chin, and down to the neck and the shoulders. If the chin has come up once again, maybe allowing the chin to come back down, feeling a lengthening through the back of the neck, and spending a few moments here on the neck and the shoulders, where we tend to hold a lot of tension and tightness. Perhaps imagining the tension in the shoulders here like ice that's melting with every breath into water. Giving the shoulders permission to relax and soften. Allowing any tension to flow down into the earth and away from you. Moving down into the arms, starting with the tops of the arms, the biceps, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the palms, and the fingers. Taking a moment to notice what the hand feels like, what the fingers feel like from the inside out. Perhaps feeling the tingling in the tips of the fingers, pulsing, sensations of being alive. And we return to the torso, allowing the chest and the upper back to relax. The region of the heart and the middle back the abdomen, the lower belly, and the lower back. Allowing the belly to be heavy. And moving down, feeling the sensation of the surface beneath you on your sit bones, against your glutes. Moving down into the thighs, the knees, calves and shins, the ankles, the arches of our feet, and our toes. And here, taking a few breaths to notice the sensation of the whole body. Noticing what the body feels like in this moment. Noticing how the body changed or hasn't changed. And now we draw our attention to the region of the heart. Noticing what the beating of the heart feels like in the chest. Noticing what the breath feels like right now. Experiencing the rise and the fall of the chest with each breath. And if thoughts and emotions start to arise, as they may, gently bringing our awareness back to the sensation of the breath in the body. Coming back to this awareness, the rise and fall of the chest. And start to notice the outline of the body. You may want to visualize that as an oval shape or a round halo or aura around you. Becoming aware of the sense that the self is larger than just a physical body. Feeling also this energetic self beyond just the physical body. And start to see this energetic self as a ball of bright light, pulsing, glowing. Feeling this sense of the spiritual self. Abiding in this sense of peace, of calm, of rest. and feeling all of us flooded in this bright light. And slowly we start to bring this awareness down into the mind, feeling the mind illumined with this light, into the emotions, awash with a sense of compassion for the self, for others, and into our physical body, rejuvenated, revitalized. Slowly becoming aware of our physical sensations of hands and feet, the sounds around us. And whenever you're ready, you may gently open your eyes.